Hi, I'm Rob from Automated by the Global Society, and in today's video we're going to continue our exploration of the campaign builder inside Ontraport, and we're going to look at some of the things that you're going to need to do when publishing your campaign. So let's get started. Okay, so let's jump straight into our Ontraport account. Once again, here we are in the home page. We're hitting sign in, username and details, and boom, let's log straight into our account. Now, once again, we have all of our different objects along the top. As you will recall, if I want to build campaigns that are going to update details about particular programs. So if I want my academic who's leading a study tour to be reminded about certain things that they need to be doing when they are preparing a study tour, I can set up a campaign based on particular fields inside this object, and the campaign can remind that academic that certain things need to be done at certain times. We've been playing around with one in here inside the experiences object, which is campaigns. And we were building out a fictitious pre-departure sessions campaign. So let's jump straight back in here, and this is going to start looking familiar to you. So let's presume that we've actually, we're ready to launch this campaign. So we've entered all the emails that we want to create. We've created the triggers, we've created goals so that we're going to have things being followed up. We've created tags and reporting and all of the different features that we want. And we feel like we're ready to start publishing this campaign. Publishing means making this thing live. Let's have a look at some of the things you're going to need to pay attention to. The first thing here is right up here, this little box that's called checklist. The checklist tells you everything that you have left to do before you can publish this campaign. So in this case, you can't publish a campaign if you haven't actually selected the email that you want to send at a particular step. So all of those emails that I have inserted in here, I haven't actually selected an email, a particular email. So if I scroll down through here, you can see there's this little red dot. I haven't chosen the email that I actually want to send at this step, and I can actually click on this thing here in my checklist, and then I can choose the email that I want to send. So you will see inside your campaign, anything marked with a red dot is something that's outstanding. But the easiest way to work through this is either to work through it in a linear fashion, literally work through your threads and make sure everything is updated the way it is, or come to your checklist and say, right, here's an outstanding item. I need to actually select a task that's going to be triggered at this point. Here's an email, and obviously I'm just choosing emails at random here. I would never suggest that you just send random emails. But you can see just getting through this is relatively easy. Is you're like, oh, okay, I'm at step X, I need to send a particular email, off we go. Changing tags. Well, I forgot to add a particular tag here, so let's add add a particular tag or remove them from a particular tag at that stage. Update the settings for a goal. Okay, so this was a goal that I was playing around with in the last video, and maybe I don't want that goal anymore, so I'm going to delete that goal and delete everything below it. Bye-bye. And then finally, I need to send a fulfillment list. A fulfillment list, as you will remember, is basically like a report. So here's a fulfillment list that needs to be sent. So now my checklist is complete. It sort of looks like I'm ready to go. Once again, always save your drafts. And if I hit save and publish though, it's going to give me an error message that says, oops, sorry, you can't publish. And the reason is that you can't have open endpoints on this campaign. So you remember in one of my earlier campaign videos, I was talking about the fact that we need to tie up each of these campaign threads as we're building them. So you can't have an open campaign element there. We do have an endpoint here, but as you'll remember, before any endpoint, we always want to insert a wait period before popping in our endpoint. And same thing again, a wait element before inserting our endpoint. So now this is basically ready for me to publish. But I just want to show you one more thing which is around this endpoint. If I click on this endpoint, over here, you notice that it says remove contacts from this campaign when they reach this point. Now, in some cases, you'll have students moving down through different threads on campaigns or moving through one particular campaign. And once they finish all of those steps, you want to remove them from that campaign altogether. So if I click that box and say done, this goes from being an end point, stop, where that record basically drops down and stops on that endpoint and sits there for forever. An exit will actually remove them completely from this campaign. Now that can be useful in certain circumstances. What I would strongly recommend though is that if you're going to exit someone from a campaign, you always want a record that they have been on that campaign. Now by default, Ontraport will track, it's called the automation log, will track every campaign that your contact record, your records have been on. So if a student experience has been through this campaign, there will be a record of that. But it's harder to search for that in the automation log. You can't pull groups based on the automation log. So if you're going to use an exit, I would always recommend that you add a tag before the exit, which talks about, which says the fact that they have been on this campaign at a point in time. I haven't got one, but I would create a tag which is called like campaign previously completed, and then the name of this campaign. So like student preparation campaign. So the fact that they've been dropping down through this thread, they're about to get exited off this campaign, they're no longer on this campaign, Ontraport will add a tag to that record that says, hey, just so you know, this record was once on this campaign. So if at some point you're trying to identify an issue or you want to know if a student was on this campaign at some point, instead of having to dig into the automation log where everything is tracked, you can just search for tags inside the list view. So much easier. A nice little productivity hack. Okay, let's go. So I'm going to hit save and publish, and am I ready? Okay, nothing happened. Because when you make something live, unless you have triggers that are based on things like dates, nothing is going to happen straight away. What is critical now, and you'll notice that this has gone from being unpublished to being live, this is waiting and sitting there waiting for things to happen. So if fields are updated inside the system, this is now live. And you remember our trigger right up here at the top was to fire when an experience status is updated and equal to accepted. So if any of those fields are accepted now, once this thing is live, those records will start to end up on this campaign. And that's, of course, very powerful. But before you go live, you definitely always want to review your campaign. And as soon as it's live, you want to test it. Now, actually, there's a little hack here to, like you're saying, okay, how do I test a record? Or how do I test a campaign which I want to make live but is going to instantly draw people onto it? So let's say it's based on due dates or fields being updated. Well, what I can do is in my actual trigger is I can add a second condition to this, which is like field is this value, or even better, I love this one, the experience has a particular tag. And we create a tag which is like the test tag. Okay, so students, this campaign will now only draw records onto this campaign if they contain the test tag. Now, no student records or no experience records actually have that test tag at this point in time, except the records that I'm testing with. So in this case, we're kind of putting in place like a condition that stops regular records from being drawn onto this campaign at this point in time. So in that way, I can then, I'm just going to save and publish that, and you'll see exactly what I mean. If I come out to experiences, and I've already got some test records created. Oh, no, I don't. Let's create a new test record. So Rob testing and I need to put in an email address, rob@globalsociety.com.au. In order for me to be able to fire this record onto that campaign, so you remember that experience status is what will trigger this record onto that campaign. So normally if this was triggered, this would be triggered by me setting this status as accepted. But at this stage down here in my tags, I don't have that test tag. So if I want this, this record to trigger onto my campaign as part of my testing process, I need to add the test tag to begin with. And of course, live records will not have that test tag on it. So now if I actually set this up and I change that status to accepted, this should actually fire my campaign in test mode. So if we jump back to the actual campaign itself, what we actually have here is when you jump back into a campaign, so when I was first designing this, it was in what was called edit mode. But once you make this campaign live, you drop in what is called performance mode. And performance starts to give you statistics about what is going on in your campaign. And you can see that it tells you like how many records were actually here at a certain point in time. And up here in the top left is you've got different things like date ranges. So am I interested in like how many people flowed through this campaign in the last 30 days? Or, you know, have flowed through this campaign in all time or across a particular date range. Very powerful reporting functionality for you to be able to test what's going on inside this campaign. We're not going to dive into it now, but you've also got different types of reporting. So you want to see how people are flowing through your campaign, but maybe you also want to see like conversion rates. How many people clicked on that email in order to accept the terms and conditions, as opposed to bringing in a printed copy. If I select this goal, I will then actually get metrics which shows me how many people or where they converted from in this campaign. So all these follow-up emails that are going on, which one of those emails actually prompted the student to take action and accept those terms and conditions. So not going deep on the reporting side of things, but it's for you to know that it's there and to play around if it's of interest to you. Up here, once again up here in the top right, we can see that we also have this functionality to pause a campaign. So sometimes we want to, we have a problem. Like we identify that students are getting emails and we're not quite sure why, or some of the automation isn't working, or maybe we've just designed something wrong. The best thing you can do is just immediately pause your campaign. No further action will happen, like no more students will progress through it, no more triggers will fire, no more goals will fire. You pause your campaign. Best practice, if you want to delete campaigns, for example, is to shift them to pause and not to actually delete the campaign, because if you've done all this work, what we do is actually just add this little naming convention at the start, which is Z:::. And the reason we do the Z:::, is if you want to create a group based on campaigns that are no longer active, all of them should be paused, so they're no longer drawing records in and taking actions. But you can actually create a group where the name of the campaign is Z:::, includes Z:::, and it'll give you a list of all of your archived campaigns. So that's really nice. The reason we use Z is because that means when you sort it by name, all your archived records are at the bottom and out of the way. And the reason we use the double colon is because if you have words that end in the letter Z and you just had Z::, then any naming convention, or when you're pulling a group, would also pull out those records, even though they might still be live. So by adding the second colon, you're just ensuring that any groups that you pull will only pull genuinely archived records. So those are some of the functionalities that you might want. I'm going to make this thing live again, resume the campaign. And you saw I just clicked here on this little note icon. This is kind of cool, right? So the note functionality allows you to actually add notes to your campaign in various spots. So if you want to add notes about what's going on, and actually if I shift over into edit mode, this is a little bit easier. Here is my note. I can actually start to add really detailed information about what is this email all about. So this email is the one that has the Kermit the Frog meme in it. You know, you can add whatever details you want, and this is very powerful because this allows you to actually set up the explanation for why you've built your campaign in certain ways and what's happening at different stages. So when it comes to training new staff members, you pretty much have no work to do. All you have to do is send them to this page and have them look through the campaign, and you can have detailed notes sitting alongside it saying, you know, we trigger them onto this campaign because X. We wait for 7 days because of this reason. We send this email because this. So using notes is a very powerful way of adding detail to your campaign, adding explanations to your campaign, making note of revisions that you need to make at later points. Very, very nice indeed. So that is a very nice introduction to campaigns. The last thing you'll notice, I just hit save again, and I was in performance mode. My campaign was live. I shifted back into edit mode, and I hit save. And you can see I get this warning message that you're working. Suddenly now you're working on a new draft. So I've got my live version, and now I've created a new draft. What Ontraport gives you the ability to do is actually delete this draft altogether and just go back to the original draft of this live campaign. So this allows you to actually go into a campaign that's live, not affecting the live performance of that campaign, and to start to work on enhancements for that. And if at some point you realize that your enhancements suck, you just throw them away by hitting delete this draft, and voila. You can see all of those notes that I've inserted have disappeared, and you know, no impact on my live campaign. So very, very handy indeed. That is an introduction to campaigns. Now what I would like you to do is to go in and to practice building a very simple campaign where you trigger a record onto the campaign, you add, you know, you send an email, wait, send an email, wait, and a goal that occurs underneath that for, you know, a particular record to be updated, and then practice actually launching that campaign with the campaign in a sort of test mode, if you like. So you'll remember that in order to have this in test mode, I'd added this experience tag. Now, obviously, when I'm ready to go fully live with this campaign, I need to delete out that test tag so that this will then activate on every single record. And there we go, it's now live. So, yeah, that's it. I hope that you enjoy this first little experience in playing around with Campaign Builder, and we will dive deeper into the world of campaigns and all of the wonderful things that you can do with it, specifically with automated, so specifically with your student mobility workflow in future videos. But for now, enjoy this functionality, and as always, we're standing by to support you and help you with any questions that you might have. Take care.